about that and more fun Zhenji mushroom facts as I sketch this little fun guy. So let's just turn the page and get started. Okay, honestly, the fun guy joke, it's never not funny. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a, goodness, is it Tuesday morning already? 5:30 in the morning on Tuesday mornings is when I like to do a little thing where I pull a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, if you will, and I draw it and we talk about it. And today's random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier is a Zhenji mushroom. Now the Zhenji mushrooms were hoarded by Chinese emperors because they were believed to be herbs of, they were believed to grant the consumer longevity at the very least, eternal life at times. And it's not without merit. But some of the ancient emperors, like the Han Wu declared it a good omen in his empire, and had every one of them gathered up. And one of his descendants had 10,000 of these hoarded in 1 year. Had 10,000 of them gathered up and brought to the castle and stored. That's a lot of mushrooms. That's exactly right. That's a lot of mushrooms. But these things have an interesting phenomenon. They have a chemical in them, and I should have written the chemical down better because I cannot read my handwriting. They have a chemical component in them that actually recalibrates the immune system. It doesn't just reset it; it recalibrates it. So whatever is ailing you, it recalibrates your immune system against whatever the ailment is.
Yes, Rick.
Good morning, Rick.
It's loud.
What's wrong?
The music is a little bit loud.
You know what's funny is when I record the trailers, you can't hear the music at all in the trailers. I have to turn it up to record the trailer.
Maybe it's me.
No, I doubt that.
You went too far that time.
So now you can't hear it at all? I'll put you in charge of it. I'm going to give you mouse control. I don't like the fact that I can't just punch in a number and have it set. I have to use this little slider that doesn't necessarily relate to real life sounds. Anyway, I may let Rick come set my music. He knows what he's doing.
Emma.
Good morning, Pamela. I may have to let Rick come set my music because I apparently don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, Zhenji means spirit fungus. They're known for their approximately 3-inch wide purple caps. There are other mushrooms in this family that resemble this mushroom, But this is the only one with these properties.
So when you say a 3-inch wide cap, you're talking the whole mushroom, not just each little round.
I'm talking a little round cap on the very top is about 3 inches wide. Not every one of them. Some of them are smaller, of course, and some of them are up to 3.5 inches. But on average, 3 inches.
Every one of those little bubbles.
Yes.
Big mushroom.
It is. It is. You can see I'm going to have to switch to pen very quickly. I can see the pencil marks are already starting to confuse me. And I am so very easily confused. All right, let's switch to pen. Do. There's a compound in these things that they extract, and they use it to treat drops in leukocytes. When you have chemo, for instance, you'll have a loss of white blood cells, and this mushroom has properties that combat that. And this is one of the only mushrooms that has actually made it into the pharmacological, that made the leap from traditional medicine into modern science. Most of them, they fall off at the anecdotal what's the word I'm looking for there? Folk science, folk medicine. But these guys have actually stood up to the pharmacological tests. One of the very rare instances where science admits that the folk medicine is well founded. Just like I said, it actually helps with the loss of white blood cells. It actually helps you reproduce more white blood cells to get you through the chemotherapy. Project Genome tried to map these things and found out that there are tons and tons and tons of built-in defense properties in these things that most mushrooms and organisms in general don't have as many defenses against these things that this particular mushroom has, to include defense against insects, defense against other fungus, defense against bacteria. But the really interesting thing is it has a built-in defense against it rewrites its own DNA to prevent invasive DNA from changing it. So if you had a virus, for instance, that comes in, viruses will come in and inject their DNA into your cells and cause your cells to produce more viruses. Well, they have a built-in mechanism that prevents that by rewriting their own DNA. They're not the only organism that we've talked about that does that. Another organism that we've talked about that does that was the, I don't remember if it was a squid or an octopus, but it was one of the deep sea animals. I think it was an octopus. I had all that space. I could have drawn that so much bigger. I made that. Pamela, what's what?
Now you saw the Bobby frogs. Pretty sure they were that's where they got the idea for John with the hat.
I haven't. Did you post some blobby frogs, or did you send me some blobby frogs? I've seen some blobby frogs. I always thought Jabba the Hutt was a banana snail. Was a banana slug. That's funny, though. I drew that almost exactly life-size compared to the model. And I had all this other space over here I could have gone off into. All right, let's see here. No, I didn't even get a chance to look up yesterday. Pamela, I was down sick since Friday and got so behind on my day job and got so behind on my setup for the studio. I haven't really spent hardly any time at all on social media except to schedule posts. But I will look today. I spent at my day job. I spent all my time yesterday making coloring sheets. We were.
She sent them on Messenger.
I see. She sent them on Messenger. We were really slow at work yesterday, and so I spent my time making coloring sheets. Thankfully, I have one of those jobs where nobody really minds me doing that. As long as whatever I'm doing, I can just put down and and do what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm supposed to be doing it. Can't get too involved. You know, I can't break out the oil colors, the oil paints, for instance.
I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you very much. I am feeling worlds better. Thank you very much. That man flu. I'll tell you what, once that man flu gets you down, you know, women can't really understand man flu. Women think they understand, but I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you they do not. If you were in labor while stepping on a Lego with a migraine, maybe.
I think you could understand that.
maybe you'd have some comprehension of man flu. I'm gonna get letters. I'm gonna get comments about that, I guarantee you.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're asking for trouble.
Maybe I should have taken some of these mushrooms. You know, I don't know if these mushrooms have any psychedelic effects. They consider them good omens when they find them, because Emperor Han Wu declared them to be a good omen. And so they consider the kingdom considers them good omens to find them. You know, this may be a pretty big project to be taken on in the morning before work. How much time do we have? Goodness, it's already 5:48.
And you're not the psychedelic effects.
Okay. It sounds like something Big Mushroom would say. Be much cooler if they did.
Rick says, is it because we are white-eared? And then it says, have a shroom or two.
Have a shroom or two.
I'm very familiar with the results of the man flu.
There are I don't know if study's the right words, but there are arguments to be made that man flu is actually worse than what women understand it to be. But it's psychological. The one thing I read about man flu that made perfect sense to me was that many men, not all men of course, many men place their personal value on their ability to provide for their families. And when they are ill, it feels as though they are incapable of performing their function as a man. And that there is a psychological depression that comes along with that. And that kind of makes sense to me. Not that I agree with it, not that I think that men should value themselves based on their ability to provide, but we all know it's true. But that when men get sick like that, it's coupled with the depression that comes along with not being able to provide for their family. And I kind of agree with that one. I'm going to go ahead and add the vermilion to warm those caps up to separate it from the shadows before we dry it. I'm sorry, though. Yes, I did. Yes, it. Translation is Weiner, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, Pamela, that's the whole thing. These actually have the pharmacology industry, pharmaceutical industry rather, has already determined that these actually have medicinal value, and the Chinese have been taking these for well over 2,000 years. have been gathering these for well over 2,000 years because of their medicinal value. Like I said, this is one of the few times when traditional medicine actually stood up to the pharmaceutical companies. But they went through a series of renaming, taxonomical renaming, when they started researching, especially after Project Genome. There's several mushrooms in this family, and several of the mushrooms they thought were this are not this, and it has caused a problem in the American marketing industry. Let me dry this real quick. We'll talk about that on the other side. They grow in cool, dark places. So forest floors and damp hallways. Pamela asked in the chat where they grow. There's actually kits you can buy, and we were going to get to that. There's actually kits you can buy that allow you to grow them at home, and that was one of the problems, one of the many problems they discovered in the 70s and 80s. There was a drive for people to grow mushrooms at home. There was a huge hobby industry that erupted over growing mushrooms at home, and it wasn't just the shroom industry. People were growing all kinds of mushrooms, but specifically this mushroom, people were trying to get the medicinal value of this mushroom at home, and it turns out that the kits were mislabeled. They were the wrong reishi mushroom, and thankfully none of them were harmful, but they didn't have the health benefits that they were they didn't get the health benefits that they were aiming for. But it extended into the supplement market. When you go to GNC and you buy supplements, the supplement may list that it has this mushroom in it, and it either has the wrong mushroom. 75% of the time, it either has the wrong mushroom or no mushroom at all in it. And that's been an issue. Now, having the wrong mushroom, I can understand, because that's what happened when they changed the name. By changing the names, they went through several name changes as they were doing the Project Genome and the taxonomical work. But I mean, I can kind of give them a pass on having the wrong mushroom. I can't really give them a pass on not having any mushroom at all. I think not having any mushroom at all is a little bit inexcusable. Considering they're saying that they have the benefits of these mushrooms. But it's estimated that 75% of the supplement market is either wrong or lying. Big Pharma wouldn't lie to you, though, right? Uh-oh.
He knows this is not a show, but I would like to know your picture that you had in the color of the top. Done perfectly.
The color for the cap?
Yes.
Is scarlet and cobalt blue. You're more than welcome to ask questions. Scarlet and cobalt blue. Yeah, I don't just sit here and talk about the art because I don't presume to be an expert at it. But I started with vermilion to warm it up. The Payne's Gray that I use is a homemade mixture of cobalt blue, vermilion, and Prussian blue, with just a touch of black. I think black. If you it's real easy to use too much black and ruin it. So that I start with that for the Payne's Gray mixture, and then to warm it up, I went over the whole cap with vermilion. And then now I'm just going around with some. It's a scarlet and cobalt blue mix. And then I'm going to add a little yellow ochre to these stems down here. Just a touch of yellow ochre to these stems down here. What is going on right here? This shouldn't be. That shouldn't be bright like that at all. There we go. I may take just a little bit of my sap green here, thin that way down. Because I want the white on the base of that mushroom to really stand out as white. Got a little carried away there. That's okay. We can soak some of that up. Good morning, Claudia. Also missed this stem right here. All right, let me dry that and then we can ink it. Especially since we're past time. Thank you, Asian Duck Shooter. Got Asian Duck Shooter over in the vertical telling me that he likes the fact that it's not random BS. Good morning, Claudia. Good afternoon. Can't talk, Arting. Dun dun dun. I don't typically use brown.
Mixture colors.
Yeah, I don't usually use brown. If I want brown, I'll use vermilion and Prussian blue. And what shade of brown I want depends on how much orange or how much blue I use. I don't typically use brown. I have brown. I just don't use it. Just like I have black, and I actually have Payne's Gray, but I just don't use them. I make my own. Today's the 12th of May. No, it's April. No, it's May. 12th of May. All right. So there it is compared to the photograph. Let's see it. Yeah, mixes are tricky, but that's part of what I'm doing here in the mornings is I'm practicing that. Pamela says mixes are tricky, and you don't always get this. You don't always get exactly what you're after. But like I said, that's kind of the point. Thanks, Rick. Pamela thinks I would love Dusty Bee paints. So there it is from my perspective. So that's what I did this morning. Tomorrow, what do we have tomorrow? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, the suspense. The suspense. What could it be? What could it be? I know what it is. It's a ring-tailed lemur. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a little ring-tailed lemur. You know what we're going to talk about tomorrow is we're going to talk about their stink warfare, how they coat their tails and their wrists in stinky things so that they can attract the ladies, and how they also use that same exact stinky warfare to fight off potential mates, and how the ladies will just slap them away if they're not motivated by it. So we'll talk about that and more fun ringtail lemur facts tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Texas time. So you may want to set that notification bell so you don't miss that. Stinky warfare. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I like the feedback. The Dusty Bee paints, I'm going to have to try those out. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. Asian Duck Shooter, Pamela, Claudia, Rick, Joe was here earlier. Who am I missing? Claudia. Who am I missing? I feel like I'm missing somebody. But guys, thank you so much for joining me, Mom and Dad. I do look forward to this every day when I get to art with my besties. It's my favorite time of the day. It holds me accountable to my art practice, and it's often the only art I get to do. So be sure and tune in tomorrow, same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing, because when they see me dancing, I will know that I will not be cut off mid-sentence, because the lag will have caught up with the stream. It gives everybody a chance to say hello and goodbye to each other. It gives you a chance to click the clicky thingies this way if you're on the horizontal, or this way if you're on the vertical, so that you can watch another fantastic video just like this.